Empire. Back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast, and today I'm honored to be talking to the president. No, not that president. J.C. Tretter, president of the NFL Players Association. Got a whole lot to cover as he is just months into his first go-around as president, and it's been such a strange, a complicated, very layered and involved off-season so far, and what looks like is going to be a season like we've never seen before. And so I wanted to talk to him as we get back to the grind, and that's what we're going to do. But thanks for coming back again. This is Mike Jones. You can read me at usatoday.com, follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ByMikeJones, and without any delay, because JC and I are going to cover all of the craziness of this offseason, let's just jump into it right now. All right, now very happy to have JC Tretter on the podcast. JC, welcome to the Football Jones. How is everything going?
Everything's going well. How about you?
Oh, pretty good. You know, it's crazy times, but we're hanging in here. And I know it is for you as well. You moved into your new position there as president of the Players Association, and you haven't had a way to really ease your way into this. It's been a lot of action, fast and furious, from the new CBA to the COVID restrictions to now what's going on in our country. Kind of tell me what it's been like for you these last few months as you've tried to get comfortable in your position.
Yeah, honestly, it's obviously been busy times, but this was something that I went to school for and was something I was passionate about, and it's honestly been great to get involved and start doing the thing that I wanted to kind of do before football became my path. So it's been definitely busy, but I've enjoyed every minute of it, of working and doing all the things that it takes to kind of do this job and be in this role.
So what was your degree in?
Industrial labor relations.
Okay. And so you knew that this was the type of thing that you wanted to get into. And then when did you feel like, hey, I don't have to wait till football's over. This is something that I can use while I'm still playing football.
Yeah. It started, obviously, I went to school, studied it, originally went in thinking I'd go to law school. And then as I kind of took law classes, and I also, worked in some union classes as well, and kind of enjoyed both of those avenues. And then once I got to the league, my first couple of years I was banged up, didn't get involved with the union, was just trying to make sure that I handled my day job and stayed healthy and got on the field and was able to continue to be a professional football player. And then as I got more comfortable in my position and more comfortable of how much work it takes to be a professional football player, I wanted to start kind of going back to what I learned about what I studied in school. So I became one of the reps for the Browns when I came over from Green Bay. And then right when the season ends, I kind of made the decision, knowing that the president's role was going to be open, that was something that I wanted to go for and wanted to throw my hat in the ring and try to achieve.
Now, being a player rep for a team, you're doing a lot of, informing and educating guys. What was that like for you? And then why did you feel like, what, I'm helping this team, but I can help the league as well? What about that made it appeal to you as well?
Yeah, as rep, it's like you said, a lot of it is just making sure the guys in your locker room understand what's going on, and organizing meetings and organizing, messages, or just making sure guys understand what's going on in the league, updates that are important to them. And then as running for president, kind of my first thought, even just getting involved with being a rep, was I think a lot of guys have ideas and thoughts of what can be done better or what can be improved on, or things they'd like to see. I kind of describe it as not wanting to be a Monday morning quarterback and wanting to, like if I have ideas and I see something that I want changed, I'm going to go do it. And I'm not going to sit back and be like, man, I wish they were doing this. Like, I'm going to go get involved and work to see that change and implement that change.
What's been the biggest thing that you've learned so far just in these short months about not just, your locker room, but the whole, player body membership and just the way that this league, where it's headed, that you've found so far?
Yeah, I think one probably good example with everything going on with COVID is it's kind of going to become its own little negotiations and trying to find the best ways to move forward. And I think understanding that you represent the body of players and not, a specific group, a specific team, a specific age. You represent everybody, and you're looking to help everybody's best interests. And kind of always having that mentality of like, this is not about what's best for me or what's best for, someone else. This is what's best for the entire unit of NFL players. And always kind of having that in the back of your head of, that's the goal and that's your responsibility.
Gotcha. You guys got the CBA finalized. Were you thinking, okay, good, negotiations are done, and then boom, this hits here, and you guys are gearing up for, there's more haggling and back and forth going on there. What was that like when you realized that, we're not really done yet?
Yeah, I think it's, from what I've gathered and at least what I've experienced, something I think is always going to come up. There's always going to be a new item that pops in that you weren't expecting, that you have to kind of work on and try to get corrected and fixed. So that's kind of just part of it. And knowing that there's never just going to be easy 4 years or, an easy time where everybody just floats by and nothing really pops up. There are going to be issues, and that's something we look at as the union's job's never done. And that's what I said once the CBA was done, of the guys that, had issues that they still felt weren't corrected in this CBA. Don't just go away, stay involved, because there can be things done in between CBA agreements to get some things changed and some things fixed. And I think that's kind of the outlook you have to have is you can't sit back and be like, well, you know what? Well, the CBA is done 11 years. We'll worry about all this stuff again. Like, keep that same passion you had for the 3 months that we were talking about the CBA openly and publicly, and stay dialed in and dived into the subjects.
Gotcha. So it's a living, breathing, evolving thing, this collective bargaining agreement. Nothing is ever set in stone.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. What is your level of concern with just the COVID restrictions and you guys being able to get back to work, and how not having fans in the stands will impact things from a business standpoint for you all?
Yeah, it all, like you said, it all kind of goes together where, we're in the CBA. We have to have a good faith bargaining session over missed games and missed revenue. And that's kind of how our system works. So that plays a part in it. But also I think the main goal is, health and safety. And usually when you're in my position, you talk about health and safety, you're talking about on the field, looking at injuries and practice tempo and stuff like that. And this is health and safety, but in a different light. And it's about keeping guys healthy and safe, and not just them, but their families too. And that's something that we have to be really cognizant of is, we have players in this league with underlying conditions that make them more susceptible to the, really bad cases of this virus. And we've got guys whose family members, their kids, their wives, who also are immunocompromised or have these issues too. So this isn't just, well, you guys are in the best athletes in the world, you guys will be fine. Yeah. That's not the case of our player body, and it's definitely not the case of our families. And those are the things that we have to look at and be concerned with, is how do we keep our players and our families healthy and safe during this pandemic.
I know that there is a school of thought. Some people are like, you know what, we'll just go out there, do our best, and just hope that everything takes care of itself. But that's a little easier said than done, as you mentioned with families, guys with underlying conditions. And in the news, today, there's several Dallas players, several Houston players testing positive for it. How do you all go about this in the safest way possible, but still try to get football? I mean, it's not like you guys don't want to play football.
Right.
How do you get both? Is it possible to have both?
And I think that's something that kind of gets lost. We've seen a lot of kind of public negotiations in the other major sports. I think that sometimes gets lost in translation. The players want to play. Everybody wants to play. We love playing football. So this isn't like we're trying to duck out of our jobs and trying to get, a free year off. We'd love to be out there, but also we want to be safe and come out of it healthy without, negative, long-lasting issues that are going to follow us the rest of our lives with this virus. So, that's kind of the outlook, and it sometimes gets lost in translation a little bit when you start talking about all these precautions and things you need. Because again, like you'd love to be out there, guys want to play, but you have to look at the big picture of what issues you're going to face. How susceptible are you? How in danger are you? And make the best decisions looking through the entire picture.
How have you advised guys to go about this off season? I know, it's kind of like some guys have told me, veterans have told me it's kind of like the lockout year, where, they couldn't be at facilities. They had to take it upon themselves. This time, at least you guys have the virtual OTAs. You're able to be in contact with your strength coaches and everything. But how do you talk to your young guys about being ready and prepared for an NFL season whenever you're ready to go, when they don't know what life in the NFL is like?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of, and like you said with the lockout, I think it's going to be similar in that a lot of the older players took young guys under their wing right away, and there wasn't those 3 months in the off season to kind of watch and learn and see, oh, this is what this guy does. You're going to be thrown into the fire as a young player in this league whenever it is we can get back to playing football. And I think it comes on the older guys in each locker room to kind of pull those guys aside and show them how to be a professional football player and how to act, how to prepare, how to train, how to study. And it's going to be kind of a quick adjustment. But I think the older guys look at this as a brotherhood and making sure guys are taken care of.
What's your level of optimism that training camps will be able to start on time?
I don't know at this point. Obviously, it's a novel emerging virus, so there's consistent updates and new information comes out every day. So I've continually tried not to look too far ahead and tried to really focus on kind of 2-week spurts of making sure we're all set up, and we got the virtual off season done. That negotiations was finished. And we've got that settled, and now it's extended through June 26th. So everybody knows what the deal is through June 26th. And some teams have now broken up and ended their off season. So guys are now into their break. Other guys are still continuing on for the last 2 weeks. So I think we're kind of set for the next 2 weeks, and then it's continually kind of chopping away and looking, very close in the future and not getting too far out, because it's still being a month and a half away from when training camp would normally start. You look at how different the world looked a month and a half after this all, went down, and you see how much can change that quickly. And I think when you start going down all those rabbit holes and all those avenues, you kind of get lost a little bit because you just don't know what world we'll be living in a month and a half from now.
Right. Do you anticipate negotiation leading to some type of setup where there's a lot of guys who are out of work right now because they can't get a physical or they can't work out? Are those guys, is the light at the end of the tunnel for them, or are they just gonna have to wait till whenever training camp starts, you think? I mean, I'm thinking, there's high profile guys like Cam Newton, Clowney, there's a lot of them, but yeah, those are the ones that fans ask about a lot. And I know they're kind of in limbo, but what do you think that will look like for them?
Yeah, a lot of that comes into, whether guys can get physicals done and whether, if a guy can't get his physical done, what happens. Yeah. So there's a lot of that stuff still going on of trying to find the best pathway forward. And that's kind of the tough world we live in right now, where there are a lot of questions unanswered. And even when you do come up with an answer, it brings about like 3 more questions. Yeah. And it's kind of constantly trying to plug the holes, and you eventually, you're just trying to stay afloat. So it's all being looked at and trying to find the best way to have a season and also keep that season going, and not kind of rushing back and then being stuck in a place where things shut down again, and making sure that we're in the best place to have a season and keep it going.
I felt like as we shift to something else that we're starting to see players realize the power that they have as businessmen. You know, we're seeing guys demand more, you know, as far as guaranteed contracts and taking care of themselves, not just being beholden to what's offered to them, but really, you know, making smart business decisions. And we're seeing guys really understand that they can use their voice for change, especially in the last couple of weeks here. What has that been like for you as one of the leaders of these players, and the way that we're seeing guys, not just black guys, there's white guys, there's young guys, veteran guys, everybody has really tried to realize, you know, look, we're more than athletes here. We can make a difference in the world, even though, you know, we're pro football players.
Yeah, it's been great to see, and it's been inspiring to see. And I think when you get to this point in your career, you're a professional football player, you've gained some sort of platform, some bigger than others. But I think it's that realization of, you know, I now have this platform, and I can make, you know, changes, and I can use it for good and to push forward ideas that are valuable. And I think that's all kind of, everybody's seen it in the last kind of 4 weeks of just like, wow, you know, my voice carries, and I should start utilizing it for, you know, the benefit of everybody, and not just, you know, as some say, would just stick to sports and be quiet about everything else, but instead, you know, you use your voice, stand up and fight to make a difference.
What are those conversations been like for you as you've talked to guys, as you know, they deal with a very emotional time, and they also want to try to find a way to you know, be impactful?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, for me even, I think a lot of guys have to kind of take the time to listen and to understand guys' perspectives and what guys are saying and guys' experiences. And we don't do enough of that as a society, in my eyes, is just listening to people and you know, showing some empathy and trying to understand what they go through. And that's something that I think everybody needs to get better at, it is first off, just being able to have conversations in discussions with guys and kind of have that vulnerability of being open and honest, and not just wanting to shut things down. And, you know, even if you disagree, just having those conversations are important. And, yeah, it's been great to see. And I want to continue to use my voice more. I made my statement, you know, the weekend after the events happened, and just trying to, you know, use my voice, and people can look at that and see that and kind of understand another perspective, and it brings just another voice to the table. And the more light that's shined on these issues from all over the spectrum, the better it's going to be. That's the only way things like this change, is when everybody's looking at the issue, and there's no more shade, there's no more darkness, there's nowhere to hide. It's an open and honest discussion at all times, and I think that's what we need to do more of.
As a white guy, what have you learned from your teammates? How can you be an ally? You know, obviously, like I said, you're in a leadership position, but in the last couple of weeks, what have been some of the things that your eyes have been open to, or has it been something you've known all along, but you're kind of placing more of an emphasis on?
Yeah, I think these discussions have been going on in locker rooms for years now, and that's something that I've been blessed to be involved in sports my entire life, because you get to know people with all different backgrounds, all different religions, all different outlooks, all different races. And it just gives you a broader perspective of other people and what their lives are like. And it's honestly been a huge value to me, and it's helped me grow as a person. And I think just continuing to reach out to people, and you know, it's not about reaching out and just saying like, teach me, but instead it's reaching out and having good discussions with them. And, you know, it's not like pull me along, but I want to be part of this. I want to help. I want to learn. What can I do to help you? You know, what do you want from me? And just really working together on things and understanding what guys are feeling and going through.
Now, you know, there was a group of players who released a video, you know, challenging the NFL to back them, to stand up against racism, to understand their right to protest peacefully. And then Roger Goodell came back with a statement like that. What did you make of that statement? And what do the owners have to do to make that more than a statement, but actually make it something real?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, of the power of the platforms and the voices guys in this league have. And I think that's, you know, almost the instantaneous response of how quick, that video went out and then the response came, shows that, when guys stand together, people listen and people respond. And obviously the NFL came out with their plan to donate a lot of money, and some people kind of scoff at that idea. And I think it's a start, and I don't think you can, I don't think it's right to get on them for that. And believe me, as the NFLPA, like we go after the NFL plenty, but I think it's a start, and we'd love to work more on a bunch of different issues with them involving this issue. Hiring practices, inclusivity, hiring practices, finding ways and avenues to get minorities into ownership positions. There's a bunch of things that we would like to work towards that we think we can help just within our little bubble, and as well looking at a broader sense of finding the best ways to utilize money and resources in communities that need it, that can kind of affect these changes that guys are looking for. So I think it's definitely a start with the NFL, their donation, but there's always more steps to come and more pushing and prodding that would be needed.
Gotcha. Your ownership group has been one. I know in Cleveland, you guys have done a lot of work with prison, reform and things like that. Do you feel like more owners are starting to understand that they can join with their players, just like kind of like the Haslams do?
Yeah, I think the Haslam's been great. Our organization has been great, and we've had calls together since everything kind of unfolded, and our coach Kevin Stefanski has been great about giving us the floor to speak on these issues, providing us resources, having team meetings solely dedicated to talking through these issues and bringing people on that are heavily involved in these issues to educate everybody, not just the players, but the staff, management, everybody around those calls, learning about these issues and getting a better idea. And I think sometimes people look at owners and billionaires as, they should know everything. I don't think they do know everything. I think, they also need to be educated on these issues and understand these issues. And that's kind of the world we live in, and those are the conversations that need to have. And I think you see management taking more of a step forward, especially with everything that's gone on, to be more involved in these conversations with players about what they're seeing and what they're feeling. And the Haslams have always been amazing with that, and they continue to be great.
You can't talk about protests. Everybody always asks about Colin Kaepernick. Do you feel like the league is shifting to a more receptive point where we might see him, or do you think that that's too far down the boat's sailed too far down?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I think Colin, his talent wasn't what took him out of the league. I don't think that is in question. I think he's been a player that should have been on a roster for years now, and you'd hope to see that situation remedied. But we'll see. It's going to take a team to do that, and someone to take that not just on as like it's a bad thing, but I think he's somebody who can help a team win games. So it's not something that should be looked at as like you're falling on the sword. It's he's a player that has played at a high level in this league, still can play at a high level in this league, and having him bring in to help your team. And I hope we get to that point where he's brought back into the fold. I think that would be a great thing to see.
Gotcha. Lastly, what are your goals for your position for the rest of this year going forward? A year from now, what do you want to look back and say, okay, year one of my presidency, I was able to accomplish X, Y, Z?
Yeah, obviously, I kind of ran, and when I ran for president, I spoke about health and safety a lot. And obviously, like I said, it's shifted on what that kind of encompasses. With everything going on with COVID, I think always looking for what's best for people's health and safety. And whenever this COVID comes to a close and we move past it, I think continuing to push that message and those goals forward, and looking for better ways to keep guys healthy and safe, better ways to not leave this game as battered or as beaten and bruised as we do, and looking for ways for guys to play the game they love, play it at a high level, and then still enjoy the rest of their lives with their families and not feel like they're sacrificing the back half of their life for the first half. That's not something you ever want to see. And, you hear the issues that guys go through after finishing this game, and it's, they're devastating stories to hear. And you don't want, you look around the locker room, you don't want, your friends and, the guys you go to battle with, you don't want them 20 years from now going through those struggles. It's tough to think about. So continuing to push forward the health and safety of this game. And I think it's something that the conversation should never get comfortable, or it should never be, well, we've probably done enough. Let's see what we look like in 10 years. It should always be, we can do more, we can get safer, we can get healthier, and continuing to push that conversation nonstop is what I'd like to continue to do.
And it's not easy because this is a very physical game.
Yeah.
But there are things that, what are some of those things that you guys can do to try to improve safety? And I know the CBA allowed for some more rest days and things like that during training camp. But what are some of the other things that
yeah, and I think the really interesting thing that was put in this CBA is there's going to be a committee that continues to look at training camp and look at the off season and study that to see what more we can be doing and what better ideas we have. And as I get more educated and talk to a lot of experts on load and joint management and soft tissue management, better understanding those issues of, I think football in general gets stuck in this idea of, well, we've always done it this way.
Right.
And that sounds great, but that doesn't mean we've always been doing it right.
Right.
And kind of pushing those limits of this might not be comfortable and it might not be the norm, but it's better. And we need to start looking at things that are better and not things that are comfortable and what we've always done. Because, we've seen, you ask guys from the previous CBA when we got rid of two-a-days, and guys who played before that CBA and as well as after say, my career was extended multiple years because we got rid of two-a-days. Yeah. But before that, everybody was saying, well, we've always had two-a-days. How can they play? Mm-hmm. In getting rid of that thought of, well, we've always done it this way. And instead looking for what's right and not what's always happened.
And I know you guys haven't got on the field, but I got to give one football question here. What can we expect from the Browns? New coach, you've got a young quarterback still growing. You guys are still a young roster, still growing. But what is your sense on expectations once you guys get out there on the field?
Yeah, I think we dealt with the high expectations last year. That were placed upon us. I think a lot of us weren't pushing that narrative forward, but it was kind of crowned on us. And I think a lot of us have just looked at this as we're going to work and we're going to prepare. And I think our meetings have gone great. Our preparation has been great. Kevin Stefanski has been amazing to work with. We have an all new coaching staff. So I think the meetings and the virtual off season has been a success. And then when we do get the opportunity to come back together, we've just focused on working and not worrying about what people think we're going to be or what the expectations are, but what we put into it is what we're going to get out of it, and just really diving in and attacking each day and trying to put, wins on the board. And it's not about what people think we can do. It's about what we're actually going to be able to do this year.
Good deal. Well, JC, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us. And hopefully, I don't know how I'll see you, if it's going to be on a Zoom after a game or if it's going to be in person, but hopefully I'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
I tell you, it's a big enough job being a pro football player, but also being the leader of a players' union when you're consistently having to go toe-to-toe with stubborn billionaires. That's another and even bigger job in and of itself. How JC is able to juggle that, is going to, I think obviously he can handle it. He went to college for it. It's impressive so far the way he's handled himself as he's taken over for Eric Winston. But as he said, there's a lot of work left to do, a lot of challenges. We don't know exactly what this season is going to look like. And I think you could tell there that he was very careful not to speculate. Didn't want to get into the business of making predictions, but we really don't know. I mean, the NFL and the players are operating as if they're going to get back to work in July, late July, just like they normally would. But as we saw, 4 Dallas Cowboys players, 2 Houston Texans players, all tested positive for the coronavirus. And they haven't even been brought back together yet. Now, what we don't know is if all of these 4 Cowboys players were guys that were rehabbing together at the facility, because they're the only players that are able to be at their facility, or we don't know if they all caught it separately. Not a whole lot of details there, obviously, because it's medical, privacy and things like that. I did hear that several of the Houston Texan players were going to be getting tested. A couple of those guys who had attended George Floyd's funeral were going to be getting tested, because there were some people who were at the funeral that wound up testing positive after the fact. And so, out of an abundance of caution, some Texans players were going to be getting tested. We'll see what happens there. But this is going to be really interesting to see, because once they get 90 football players at those facilities for practices, plus all the coaches, plus all the trainers, PR staffs, there's a lot of people. There's going to have to be a lot of safety measures in place. I think there's talk that guys would be tested very regularly, maybe every couple days. Temperature checks before they get into work. And it's going to be interesting to see. We don't even know yet if reporters are going to be allowed to be on hand at practices, or if we're all going to be doing these interviews via Zoom and phone. We don't yet know if the preseason games are going to start on time. What that's going to look like, if fans are going to be allowed to be in the stands, if they're going to be playing in empty stadiums. There's a lot of questions. What's going to be interesting is how the NBA handles things once they get back to work in a couple of weeks, because if they're able to really control and keep the COVID numbers down and operate smoothly, the NFL is going to be watching, and we'll see how that goes there. And then there's the whole other aspect of, right now when we talk about football, it all seems kind of trivial when we think about what our country is going through right now. A lot of hurt still going on. There's a lot of healing that has to take place. And sports can help with that, and you see players, as we talked about it, trying to use their voices to make a difference, to open eyes, to educate, and to inform. And look, you're going to see protests this season before football games, unless they wind up not playing the national anthem or not showing it on TV. But guys are very clear about that. Even Baker Mayfield said, I'm going to be kneeling this year. But guys also are very, very adamant that they're doing more than just kneeling. They're doing more than just protesting. They're trying to make a change in their communities and in their country, and that's definitely necessary. Well, thanks again for listening. Again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ByMikeJones. We'll continue to monitor the discussions between the NFL, the NFL Players Associations. We try to get a grasp on when they'll get back to work, what things will be, what it's going to look like. And again, not a whole lot of answers, just a whole lot of questions. Anyway, be safe. Thank you for listening. Take and download this link. Share it with your friends, please. Share on social media. Drop me an email at mjones@usatoday.com. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, send them my way, and I will, if I don't have the answer, I will do my best to get the answer for you. All right. Thanks a lot, and hope you have a great day.